Here you go. All right, it says we're streaming according to OBS. It looks like on YouTube it says starting. Stream health is good. We are live. I hope it's working. There we are. I can see us. Cheers. All right. Hey guys. Hey everyone. I see a couple of you guys already in the chat waiting for us to go live. I've been so excited for this. You have no idea. These are my two best friends in the entire world, and we got to cross paths because of poker. We all used to work for PokerNews. We were the faces of it, and best friends. I just am so excited. So we've got Lynn Gilmartin, who is also host of the World Poker Tour, and Sarah Herring, who also is just this incredible host on PokerNews. You've made a human, though, which is way more than either of us can say. And besides, I'm the one who's unemployed. All I do is wake up and wonder if my life has meaning. So
shouldn't you say self-employed, like business owner, gunning it on your own, self-made, something like that?
I mean, I could say that when I was playing live poker, and I guess I could play online, but I just haven't been. So now I just really feel like, what am I doing with my life? But it's okay.
Just to put it in perspective, like you're living my dream life. So just in case you weren't sure, like you're living a lot of people's dream. That's a dream.
It's like Ali Wong from Baby Cobra. Like, we all pretend we want careers, but we just want to stay at home and watch Real Housewives.
Why? Why did anyone do this to us? I never have understood. I'm happy about women's lib and everything, but come on, you guys. What did we do? Why did we do this?
Just kidding. I think my dream life, kind of, is Andrew's a stay-at-home dad.
That's really cute. I would resent the shit out of someone, I'm pretty sure. But, oh, you get to stay with her all day. You get to stay with him all day. I have to go. No.
I always thought that too. I was always thinking, because I've been so career focused, and I was always like, yeah, I want Angel to be the stay-home dad. He can play poker at home or whatever, and I'll be off doing my thing. But now that I've been in lockdown for over a couple of months and like cooking and cleaning, I haven't minded it. I don't know. I think I've kind of gotten used to this housewifey role that I've never really played before.
I had the same thing when I met Heath. I was like, oh, woman, hear me roar, and like super career, whatever. And he had a maid. I remember he had a maid, and he was paying her like, I don't know, a couple $100 a week or something like that. And I was like, literally, she does nothing. You don't even cook. There's not a dish in the house. Like, let me do it. You can pay me, and I will cook and clean for you for $200 a week, which I probably would have done anyways. And then we had a conversation after the first month where I was like, I actually am kind of enjoying this. Like, I kind of like being the head of the house. And he was like, oh, isn't it weird? Like, that you just enjoy the things that kind of should maybe come natural to you. That sounds terrible when I say that.
A little bit.
It really felt like that. Like, it was like we don't have to like reinvent the whole like wheel of time. If you want to, great. But sometimes when you try on those like traditional roles and you like them, you're kind of surprised, and maybe it shouldn't be as surprising, you know?
For sure. I used to be like, well, first of all, Sarah, if you could maybe move closer to your mic, they're saying that your volume is a little low.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I should move closer, and I was like, my face will be 10 times the size of your guys' face. Yes. But this is why it's the people who help us get the situation sorted. That's the only way I can stream.
I was trying to refresh YouTube to get the thing. It's finally popped up. I can see people in the chat.
Yes, we've got some people. Thanks, George, for helping us with the volume. I hope that's a little bit better. And
is it better?
Yes.
Question mark.
It sounds better to me too. We've got a few people saying hi. I just want to give shout outs before we really just get into it, you know. Paul, he says, good to see all three of you. Jiang Kong, hey ladies. And Daniel Kim, bevy of beautiful poker crushers. Olga Moreno, hey girl. Flindell from San Diego. And Paul Thompson wants to know, Sarah, how's the leg?
Oh my gosh, so many things. First off, I have to say to Olga that I want to say it was Johnny's posts, but about hard seltzer. that you guys were like stocking up for the quarantine, and that you had like 100,000 boxes of hard seltzer, and I was like, what
What's
is
that?
this hard seltzer? Okay, that's exactly what I said. So I recently purchased some hard seltzer. It's amazing. And you have to say it like this, seltzer, but it's amazing. It's like water. It tastes like water. It tastes just like
It
sparkling
tastes like
water.
LaCroix.
Yeah, but it's alcohol. And you can get very toasted in a very nice, pleasant, water-filled way, and I would recommend it to everyone. Now, here's what's going on with the leg. I'm not sure if I can show you guys, but there's this.
Yes, no longer in a cast.
And I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so it's Tuesday. On Friday night, I cried tears of joy because I walked from my bedroom to the kitchen in the boot, and I was so ecstatic. And then the next day, I carried the baby from the living room into the changing table, and I changed her. I'm gonna cry just thinking about it again. And on Sunday, I went grocery shopping, and I am walking again.
Oh
It's
my
like
gosh.
the best thing ever. It's like so stupid, the things that you like just like appreciate doing. I'm just like so happy to be walking again. Like so
Yeah.
happy.
It's amazing how we just take things like that are so simple for granted until it's removed from us, right? Like we walk around all day without any gratitude
Yes.
for the 2 feet on the bottom of our legs, until you're put in a position like you are. Oh.
It's crazy because like because of course it's like a pain to put the boot on all the time. So like when I wake up in the night and I have to pee, like I have to use crutches and be really careful because it's stupid how easily you can slip. Like it's so dumb, but like if there's like a little bit of moisture on the floor, one time I like sprayed the like make the bathroom smell good stuff, make it smell better, and like your crutches will just slip, and like then you really have a bad fall. But now, I mean, outside of the waking up in the night thing, it's like, okay, I can walk again. And like it's been painful for sure. The physical therapy is painful, and like it takes me hours every day to do my exercises, but now that I'm seeing progress, I'm like eating it up. Like my physical therapist yesterday was like, you might want to like pump the brakes a little bit, like your leg's really swollen, and like I think you might be like going a little bit hard. But I'm just like, yeah, I'm so excited, I want to do everything.
Oh.
So
Man, it's crazy. I mean, life is so crazy right now, not just because of quarantine and COVID, but I think that, one of the reasons why I was so excited to catch up with you guys is because we're all in such a different time in our lives than we were when we were at PokerNews or when we did our podcast and did Pretty Broad. And in so many ways, we've grown up and we're kind of like just in different phases. And so for those people who, haven't really seen us, or maybe people from Pretty Broad, and I know you just kind of catched us up and we talked a little bit about you getting to carry the baby, but just like each of us to kind of like catch up on where we are, what's been happening, and what's going on in your worlds. And Sarah, since you just started with where you are with the leg, maybe you just want to give a broader context of what's Auntie Chardonnay, what's up with you?
Like full on opposite, basically, I think, of what was going on during Pretty Broad, which was mostly just like drinking and playing poker and raging and living in Las Vegas. And so I moved to Texas a couple years ago, which was sort of a step in the direction of what I was thinking needed to happen. As we women know, you have this like biological timeline, which I think the closer you get to the like quote unquote time ending, the more aware you become of how much that timeline can affect the decisions that you are making in your life. And so I think at like 34, I just was like, okay, well, we're going to need to have kids soon, and there's no more putting it off. If we're going to do it, we need to do it. So I decided to move the family. We decided to move to Texas in sort of preparation for raising a family, and it took a little while. We didn't really like try exactly, but I stopped not trying, is what I like to say. And I had a baby in December, so that was like a whole year of not drinking. the last time I drank was the global. Well, now I'm drinking again. Don't worry. But the Global Poker Awards in 2019 in April, and then like the next day I found out I was pregnant.
Which is a great story because you just went buck wild at the Global Poker Awards.
She drank enough for the 9 months that night alone.
I really prepared myself. And you know what's so funny? I didn't realize, but so I was preparing for a night of hard drinking, obviously. And so I got one of these like a shot from one of the horrific, stores in Vegas that sells like $80 shitty vodkas and like just overpriced store. But I bought this thing, it was like hangover cure or something like that. And it was like you can drink it before or after. And so I was like, oh, I'll drink it before and then I'll start drinking. And it turned out it had like 380 milligrams of caffeine or something. And I just don't really drink like I don't drink coffee that much. I'm just not that into like caffeine per se, and especially not then. Dude, I was like putting on my makeup, like shaking, like getting ready for the whole like awards thing. So too, then when we get there, like I'm not hungry. I've just drank like my weight in caffeine. Like I don't need any of it. So I didn't eat, drank tons, and then found myself face down on the hotel bed. Like I'm pretty sure there was like a little bit of throw up coming out of my mouth. Like it was like a frat style get drunk. And then I found out I was pregnant, and I did not drink for the duration of the pregnancy. And really, I haven't hardly been drinking at all, because what they don't tell you is when you're nursing, you really can't drink either. So I have pumped for tonight specifically. But yeah, so my life has shifted super dramatically, although I'm still working at PokerNews. So that's a lot the same. But now I'm just...
You're pretty much running the show.
Mm-hmm.
Big time, so running the show. But actually I'm really I've really been enjoying, I've felt so much gratitude for our industry, because in this time when I think a lot of people are worried about not working, it's really like, I think we have such a technology based industry where we're able to sort of shift to whatever. And so I've been creating content from home, which has been awesome and fun. And I think both of you guys can attest to, it's like learning how to edit more. And I was like learning how to do some graphic design and things where there could be like motion graphics, which I hadn't figured out before. But I think you guys both know, right? It's like when you are tasked with, when you're given a little bit of freedom and given the opportunity to step up, it's pretty fun to kind of explore and do so, and have a job where you're given the ability and the freedom to like just take a project from beginning to end.
Right. And I think because the whole planet is going through the same kind of circumstances, there's a lot more forgiveness online now. So a lot more businesses are taking that risk that they wouldn't have otherwise done a few months ago, because, oh my God, making a TV commercial at home on an iPhone, are you kidding? That's so unprofessional, no way. And now everyone's doing it. And we're kind of like, why weren't we doing this the whole time? Because it's so relatable. And it's like, we've seen such a shift in content too, that we're so sick of an overproduced commercial looking commercial, I guess. We scroll past it and we want to see just that person talking to the lens and nothing else in a raw setting at home, a girl doing her makeup or whatever, and she's just in the bathroom. That's way more appealing than someone standing there with a microphone. Like it just feels more personal. So this has definitely helped us.
But even though also it's kind of the biggest lie. Like at least the like glitzy stuff is like, hello, like I'm a commercial. And now we live in this world where we're just so inundated by basically everything being a commercial, and not even really being able to like see or differentiate, between what is. And really, you think it started with like the Real World or whatever, where we started getting used to feeling like we knew people in their everyday lives and their normal lives, and then like we've morphed into, way beyond just reality TV, into influencers and all these things. And I do think it's interesting because it is more relatable, but it's also like, are we just going to be... I have a 22-year-old stepdaughter. I have a daughter, and I think about the things they watch now, and I'm actually terrified. But I think about, so like TikTok and stuff, like these things take a lot of time actually in planning. I only have recently been watching a lot of things, and I'm very much impressed by how much people can squeeze into a short amount of time. But I'm also very much impressed by how much time can disappear if you are consuming that content and you walk away from it with very little, right? It's memorable.
Oh, TikTok is a whole topic that, like, while I am loving like consuming the content, but the part of me that loves it is definitely one that like wants to just forget about the world and numb and laugh for a second. But it's just a whole nother topic. Like, I'm not sure how I feel about it. And when you talk about your daughter, your 22-year-old, and one who is growing up in this world where likes and TikTok followers and being famous, where like these kids literally on TikTok are like, make me famous, make me famous, that I worry a lot. And I recently just watched a TikTok where this girl was learning a TikTok dance, like savage, I'm so savage, whatever. Okay. In the background, you hear this little girl scream, and she's like, it's dead, it's dead. And then like the girl looks at the camera who's recording her dance, and she like looks over and she's like, and the little sister was like, my parrot's dead. And the little sister walks onto frame, and the big sister is looking at the camera laughing because she's like, I'm getting this on camera. She takes the phone, puts it in her little sister's face, and she's like, crying. And I'm just thinking that
she's a serial killer.
She completely lost connection to the real world, and her brain is so used to thinking, how do I get famous? How do I get my clout or whatever? Am I old for saying clout? But it's crazy.
Just looking for that content.
I want to figure out a way that I can like show this to you guys on. It's okay. Once I learn how to do this whole live situation, it'll be cool, because I could like play the TikTok to you guys and then you could react, maybe in Pretty Broad reunion number 2. But anyway, Lynn, give us an update. Oh my gosh, I really need this ability, because I wish I could play a clip from Neighbors.
Yes.
Maybe I can. I gotta figure this out.
You need Ecamm
don't.
Live. I'm telling you, it's so easy.
Okay.
Don't you dare. Okay, so it's just so crazy that when we had Pretty Broad going, we were in our mid-20s and we just thought we knew everything. We had all our opinions and thought we were just, and it's just so funny. Now we're in our mid-30s, and I can't believe how fast that's gone as well. Like,
yeah, and now we do know everything. Is the thing.
Right.
And now we're smart though.
Yeah.
What an exciting thought, though, to think how much more we're going to know by mid-40s. So since then, I've moved to LA. So I started 8 years ago. I started working with the World Poker Tour, which has just been such a dream. Still, even now, 8 years later, as the anchor.
It was 8 years ago.
Yeah, can you believe it?
Crazy.
I know. Like in a couple months. In July, it'll be exactly 8 years. Bananas. And so I'm obviously from Australia, and I, at the time, for like 3-4 years with PokerNews, I was based out of Australia and like bouncing around the world from there. And then when I started with World Poker Tour, they brought me over to LA, and that was such a dream come true for this little actor in me, because as a child, I was always an actress, and I was in every like theater show that I could be in at school and stuff. And I always dreamed of living in Hollywood and, growing up to be an actress. But when I got to high school, I quit that dream because I suffered with a lot of bullying and not feeling good enough. And I fell over on stage once, which just crushed all of my dreams and confirmed the not good enough thoughts. And so I gave up on that. And so when I moved to LA with WPT, it was then such a temptation to like start an acting class again and like, try it again, because I hadn't done it since I was like 13. But it took me 3 years of living here to finally get the courage to try it, because this is like the Olympics, right? I had no business being in an acting class. I never wanted to do that, or I never had the guts to pursue it. But one of my dear friends, Lily, she's my big sister here. We moved here at the same time. She runs a program called Hollywood Immersive, and it was just kind of like the universe aligned in the most perfect moment where I was having this like strong temptation to start acting again. And we were having dinner and I was telling her that, and it just was so perfect that she had an available spot that she needed someone to fill for her program that was coming up like 5 days later. Someone had just dropped out and she needed even numbers because everyone pairs up for scene study. And so she's like, Lynn, I actually need a 12th person. Like you will help me. You have to do this. And so I was so scared. I was like, are you kidding? Like diving into a week-long immersive program with international actors from all over the world, staying in a house and, but when I did that and the first day that I was in the little tiny 99 seat theater, like working on monologues and scenes, I just felt like I belonged. Like I was just like, whoa, what is this? So that kind of started my, focus on acting and taking more classes and stuff and just resurrecting that childhood dream in my 30s, which has been a blast. And so for the past few years, I've been picking up some little gigs here and there, a few films I've worked on, and Neighbours, which is what you two were referring to, is a soap in Australia that I grew up watching. It's been on TV for 35 years.
It's like Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful for us.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's on at 6:30 p.m. every night, and like every household watches that, and then Home and Away is at 7 p.m. So they're the two soaps that everyone watches, and pretty much every Australian actor that you can name started on one of those two. Chris Hemsworth, Margot Robbie, like all of them. Even Kylie Minogue started on Neighbours. So yeah, it was. I filmed earlier this year. I spent 2 weeks on set there, and it was just so cool. And it just aired like a few weeks ago. And yeah, but that's been me. I'm still working.
And you were amazing.
So
just since she can't toot her
good.
own horn, let's just say, like, she's with all these professionals and people. That's the thing about soap operas too, right? Is like these people are a family that work together all the time, every week. And I can't imagine how intimidating it is to come into a group of people that's been doing it forever and this is their whole thing, and just like blew it out of the water. I'd say like 100%.
I was like almost uncomfortable for the other actress. I was like, how does that feel? Because she's so much better than you. No, I mean, they have their own thing, but I just was like blown away. You were so freaking good. And it's like
there's that thing, right, where it's like, oh, people have that like joie de vivre or whatever, like where they kind of just like have a charisma on camera or something like that, and not everybody has it, and some actors are great but they just don't have it quite as much. And it was like, you're popping on camera. And is that guy some kind of like dreamboat guy? Because I was like, I love soap guys, and I was like, and Australia is kind of full of like really big hunks, and then I'm like, is that guy like the hunk guy
in the show?
Yeah.
I think so. I think he's like one of them. I honestly hadn't watched the show in forever because I've been living over in the States. So I haven't seen it in years and years, but he's been on the show for like 10 years. And I'm actually so grateful that I was paired up with him. I mean, everyone was really lovely. And like you said, it's like walking into just this well-oiled machine. Everyone has their cliques and stuff. And he just really made me feel comfortable. I think he was aware of that maybe. And I don't know, but just took it in his stride to like, or he took it upon himself to make sure that he was explaining everything, like, oh, so right now this is what's going to happen, they're going to set this up and blah, 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 like the whole day of my first day there. And he didn't have to do that, and that was just really, really, really nice, and so I felt empowered by understanding what was going on, because otherwise I'd be like, because it was a whole different beast, because I've only worked on films. I hadn't worked on a scripted TV show before this, and other than like World Poker Tour, but that's different, right? But film is such an art form, like film, which Sarah obviously knows. You've been assistant director and stuff in films, right? And producers, but in film, you'll do like every scene that you see in a movie has probably been shot like 30 times, because there's only one camera usually, and you see, it's, let's say there's 4 actors in a scene. You have a close-up for every single actor, plus a wide shot, maybe a second wide shot from different angles where you can see them sitting around a table. So if you imagine there's only one camera and it has to shift around, everyone has to have their close-up, and you probably do it maybe 3 or 4 times at minimum, even more, because the director might want one that's a little bit more angry, one that's a little bit more passionate, one that's lighter, and like, let's try different things, because it's then in post edit that then they manipulate the story even more and change it. So it's, you as an actor, you have so much opportunity to to warm up and to play with different ideas, and you know you're doing the scene like 30 times and you're exhausted and you'll work on one scene per day. In a soap, you get one take. There's multiple cameras, they set it all up at once, and you're like okay, you're just standing here, and then boom, one take, maybe two if you're lucky. Like it was just whoa, it was so fast. We just churned through everything really, really fast. It was crazy. But
especially when you're already nervous, it's like, that's it, one more time. But sometimes I think the nerves is like some of the most genuine emotions, right? Because you're like so raw in that moment. At least from like doing the AD stuff, sometimes I'm surprised we'll shoot something 20 or 30 times, but the first one was like almost always the one that like feels the most.
Yes, totally. It's way more because you are kind of discovering and you're trying to like remember your lines, so that looks like a real person trying to think about what to say. So it helps. Yeah, for sure. But I had to dive in the deep end. I was on set for 2 weeks, but day one was a scene that I had to pash my scene partner.
Pash in American
kiss.
means kiss.
Yeah. So that was hard to like start off on that, but like I said, they all made me feel comfortable, so it was good. But yeah, it's been fun. And it's so fun
Did
after
he
being
slip
myself.
you the tongue at all?
No, that's a big rule. There was actually an intimacy coach that was like, they were so professional about it all as well. Like, you know, beforehand, you know, just setting rules and like, you know, making it feel normal and trying to take any of the awkwardness out. And yeah, so no, that was the number one rule.
What didn't she tell you something? Like she told you something, that a piece of coaching before, or I don't know. I remember you saying that she said something that made it really hit home the passion part.
Oh, we just had to make it clear that we were going to sleep together because it's a soap, so obviously there's no scenes sex scenes. So it had to be clear that that's what was going to happen once the episode finished. Okay. And then when I saw the episode and I was cringing so bad, and poor Angel had to watch it, and I love him so much for supporting my crazy wild dreams and being okay as much as possible with seeing that and knowing that that's happening. But you know,
Keith had a sex scene when we first started dating with Bai Ling, and it was like we had to negotiate in the contract all these things because I didn't realize, as an AD, you know, you like try to create the safest space in the set for like sex scenes and stuff to go on, right? But I didn't realize, like, once I had met some agents and stuff, that there's just like some very clear things you need to put in when sex scenes are going to happen. Like, he wasn't allowed to be nude from like this part of his body to like this part of his body, and like positions, like which positions would be okay and not okay, because like you said, like directors want to explore all kinds of different things, so they have options in post. But when I saw the whole thing, I was just like, this is horrible. This is so horrible. I can't imagine Angel watching you like make out with some like soap opera hunk, because even for Heath, like, I know Bai Ling is definitely not his speed, but even watching that, I was just like, that was believable.
Yeah. You're like, really good. Really? You're such a good actor? Is that how it happened?
I know. And then to have like video evidence. Oh, no, you don't want to see that.
Also,
but Angel was so sweet about it.
Yes. I was trying to cover his eyes. Like, you're not allowed to watch, like sitting in front. And he was fighting me out of the way because he wanted to see it. I'm like, okay, you're brave.
I mean, that's what we do. We support each other's dreams when you love someone. And just trust also that you're not going to run away with a soap star. And if you did, I guess, man, it wasn't really working.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
But you know, it is funny though, because it's real. It's honestly, and I've had to do this twice now, because in a film as well I did it. But it's like, it's honestly no different to like a handshake. It's just a movement. When there's no emotion attached and it's just part of a choreographed scene, it doesn't feel like anything. It just feels like, oh, okay, we're doing this now, and I'm going to shake your hand or whatever. It's odd, because all we've ever attached to a kiss is a feeling and an emotion. And yeah, it's funny that it is possible that doesn't.
Especially when there's like 80 people around you, like
Right.
watching you. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, this is uncomfortable regardless. Like,
Exactly.
we're not having like an intimate moment.
Exactly. There is zero intimacy at all. Everyone's just staring. You've got like the boom mic, right? Like they're literally 4 feet away from you, holding a big microphone over the top. Like, no, there's
Yes.
nothing romantic about it at all.
Have you ever talked to Farrah, Phil's wife, about?
I haven't spoken about her soap days. No.
You know,
should.
Sasha was on Days of Our Lives too, right? She has like a recurring role.
I forgot about that.
Has she been on recently?
Yeah, she'll do. I think she ends up now doing it like 3 or 4 times a year or something. She has like a recurring role.
bartender.
That's like, yes.
Do you know we actually were in the same acting class for a while? Complete coincidence. Isn't that crazy?
I didn't know
small
that.
world.
I know, such
Even
a
in
small
LA,
world.
it's a small world.
And like not even just the same acting school, the same class, the school has like 20 different classes and we were put in the same class. And I remember when I started, because Sasha would skip class all the time, so she wasn't there much. And when I had said that I host the World Poker Tour, you know, I work in poker, she's like, oh, do you know Sasha? Because obviously like anyone in poker, it's like, yes, how do you know her? She's like, she's in this class. So such a small world.
Which, Christy,
Yeah.
what have you been doing?
Well, man, okay, since PrettyBroad and PokerNews, actually it's interesting because Sarah and I, we continued PokerNews for a little bit longer, and we stopped in like December 2014 because my life was kind of just going down a really crazy bad route. And I mean, a lot of people who watch this channel at least know a little bit about Andrew and my story, but basically, I mean, we were just near the brink of the divorce, and I was like, Sarah, I'm sorry, we have to put it on pause. And it's crazy because right after that, I also quit PokerNews and then like went on this very long, winding journey, personal growth journey, and now I live in LA and am playing poker, but also writing a book about basically the whole love story. And what's crazy is that everything that poker had taught me about risk was what helped Andrew and I through that difficult time because forgiveness and love is all a risk. So I'm like trying to write this book. I've been trying to write it for 2 years and it's so hard, but that's when quarantine came, and we're going to talk a little about quarantine. And I know a lot of you guys are poker players and wanting to, you know, have our opinions on some poker issues too, which we will talk about. But I kept saying to myself, like, maybe I just need to go on a retreat and then I'll write it. Or maybe I just need to make a little bit more money playing poker and then I'll take a break and write it. And quarantine was just like in my face, like, okay, you wanted this time. You cannot leave your house and you can't play live poker. So how about now? And if not now, then is it ever going to happen? So I've been, in addition to that, Lynn and I have been tweeting every morning, not every morning, but I try. Brian Koppelman, you know, the author of Rounders, or the screenplay writer of Rounders. He's also a screenplay writer for Billions. If you haven't seen that show, you guys, it is the best. But he, every morning we like cheers and do a coffee, like a coffee cheers in the morning. He calls it the Royale. And he's been someone who has suggested the book, The Artist's Way. The Artist's Way. It's like a 12-week recovery program for blocked artists, and I'm on week 10, so I basically started right when quarantine started, and it has changed my life. I've been writing more than I ever have, and I have a book proposal ready to submit to agents, and so I think that since PokerNews and PrettyBroad, the path that I've really been trying to find is like, who am I and what do I want my contribution to be to the world? And I think that that's storytelling, and also I want to have a baby.
Yeah.
And I've been trying real hard at that.
Which is so part of your journey. But I was just thinking how interesting, because I think, like Lynn, you were saying that when you were growing up that you had it on your heart that you wanted to be an actress. And then all these different things kind of, come into your world and shape your perception of who you are and what you're capable of and what you really want, because can you really actually get there or whatever. And Christy too, it's funny because ever since I knew you, you told me when you were like 20, you knew you wanted to write a book, and that's kind of shifted, would it be this kind of memoir or this or whatever. But it's interesting because then it's almost like your story, but you just don't know how your story gets to your story, right? Like, you want to be an actress and that's where you're supposed to end up being, but like the way to get there was not really the way that you maybe had imagined it or envisioned it or something. And for you, like, you knew you were going to write a book, but you didn't know you were going to have this horrific, traumatic experience, and that would actually be the impetus for the book that would be the impact that you should have or something.
Yeah.
It makes me think of all the like unanswered prayers, and then prayers that you don't even know that you have, but still how somehow there's this voice inside, like right from the beginning, that tells you like what the end of your story is or what you're supposed to be doing. It's so crazy. You both knew like right from the beginning, and then it takes like until your 30s, and then you're like, oh yeah, okay, this is how I got here. But like,
And
I don't know. It's amazing.
It makes sense too, in a way, because I think it feeds, we were busy living our lives and becoming a person, which then adds to the stories that we can then bring to the art that we were determined to create the whole time. But had we started when we were 16 or 20, what do we know? I don't know how to really be a person when I haven't even been a person in real life. How can I bring one to a screen? So
last night, so one of the things that I also want to do is make, these little stories and films, and I'm going to post them here on YouTube. And so I went through a scrapbook, or rather they're like 3 huge boxes of things that should go in scrapbooks, but haven't yet because I'm not amazing like Sarah. You have like scrapbooks every year. We need to like have a scrapbook weekend or something. But I read things that I wrote when I was 20, and I was an idiot. Like, nobody should ever read anything that I could have written as a 20-year-old. Like, I had to live life, and the traumatic experience was what forged me into an actually like experienced human who has something to talk about. So I'm super grateful for that. And I think, Sarah, you're right. It's sort of the path for all of us. I think someone just put in the chat, I should have been a lawyer instead of a poker player. And I think that like we all have an inner guidance system, something telling us. Some people call it God, some people call it universe, some people call it wisdom or soul or whatever. And I think that our world is always trying to lead us to that thing. And I wrote a chapter in the book. One of the chapters was I went to LA and I met up with Lynn, and I went to LA in the tough time, like right after everything happened with Andrew and I was like, am I going to stay married? What am I going to do? I went to LA trying to soul search, whatever. And I met Lynn, and she was like, we had an amazing time in Venice, and she was like, let's go to this psychic. And I was like, okay. I've never seen a psychic before. I don't know. I don't even know what I think about psychics. Yeah, whatever. But at this point, I'm like, I mean, I don't know what to do. Might as well just see what's up, because I have no answers myself. So we went to the Mystic bookstore, which now is literally half a mile from where I live today. And we walked in and looked at these faces, these people on the wall, and I picked one and she picked one, and we walked in different rooms, and I sat in front of this woman, and I was purposely vague because I'm like a little bit skeptical, and she drew tarot cards, and she pointed at a couple of different cards and was like, because the question I was like, what's going to happen with my relationship? And she was all, hey, it's like 50-50. It's not looking so good right now. And I was like, all right, biatch, you don't even know what you're talking about, or whatever. And I was like, how do you know? And I was just a little resistant. And then she flipped a card that said, this card represents boundaries. And something is telling me that August is a big month for you. And I had been like I had basically felt like I was committed to the marriage and Andrew wasn't. And I didn't know what to do. And then I left the psychic being like, I have no idea what she's saying. But a couple of weeks later, I realized that my lease with the place that I was staying with Andrew, our lease was up in August. And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense because I can't do this forever. Like, I can't be the most committed one forever. Like, it's just not going to work like this. And so I used the end of the lease to be like, hey, listen, I love you and I'm going to fight for you, but I can't do it forever. And if I'm not feeling like we're on the same page by the time our lease is up, then I'm going to move out and we're going to go to different places, or we're just going to end the lease. And that really was a turning point in our relationship because he had to decide. And I was really okay with just leaving, but it's so crazy because it's not, I don't know if it's that I actually believe in psychics, but I do think our inner guidance system, like it will say something to you if what you hear on the outside reflects something that you already need to know inside. And whether it's like getting fired or having to move, or Lynn, you moving to LA and seeing the acting classes being so close, or whatever it is, it's like, and Sarah, I think you too, you knew you wanted to move to Texas, years before you did. Like there's just something all the time guiding us, I think.
For sure. And even sometimes you think you want something, or you say you want it because it seems like it's what you should want, right? And then, but somewhere deep inside, you're like, oh, is that even, like same as how I make scrapbooks, like I make dream books all the time. And sometimes I see like, oh, it's like a yacht or something. And I'm like, oh, I want to put that in my dream book. But then I'm like, I really don't want that. I don't really want a yacht. Like sometimes it's really hard to distinguish between like there are things that get in the way that I think sometimes you're like, I should want that. Why don't I want like a McMansion or like what, I don't know, whatever it is, the things that you want. But like something deep down inside is like, no, you really don't want that thing. And you really do kind of know for the most part. I even was just saying it to my stepdaughter. It's just like, you kind of know. You could say like you're praying or whatever your thing is that you're doing to get to the answer, but somehow you kind of know already.
Exactly. Like I think it's the stuff that's a constant. Like it's if you look at the long-term span of your life and what has been the constant niggling story there, and the constant focus, like if you had this thing, this thing pulling you towards Texas, you're going to be more inclined to like notice a particular house that's for sale in Texas or something that's in Texas. If you see something that's in New York, you wouldn't even pay attention. It's not, but if there's something that every time there is any, because we get reminders all the time, it's just like opportunities, right? And they're constantly floating by our faces, but it's the ones that we're focusing on that we're going to pay attention to and grab. And so when there's always that thing behind, like that's just making us like, we just keep paying attention to it. There's a reason why we just keep paying attention to it. So yeah, if a boat pops up, it's like, oh yeah, that sounds nice, but you've never thought of that throughout your entire life. That's not like a lifelong dream. It's just a nice cherry on top. But yeah, it's that niggling constant that's always been there. And so for me, that was acting. I'm always thinking about Australia. I know long term, that's where I want to live. Like eventually, that same thing. It's always sort of like nagging at me.
But even that too, like living in Australia, that wasn't something like for a long time you're like, oh, but I gotta be in LA.
Yeah. And that's kind of the balance that I have. It's like weighing up the two. Like I miss Australia so much, but I know it's always going to be there, and eventually I will be there, and it's just kind of knowing that it's always there and it's always an option, and I can do both. And that's what's been a really lovely gift to have seen in the last kind of 12 months, especially. Most of the acting gigs I've done have actually been in Australia, and I've been able to balance them with World Poker Tour. I always thought I had to stop one to do the other. And so far I haven't. And it's been amazing. And I had like the World Poker Tour, it's a traveling tour. Why on earth would it mean that it's limited to one country? We're traveling all the time. And I have periods in between. Most acting gigs are just for a few weeks here and there. So I can just go and disappear and shoot Neighbours for a couple of weeks and then come back and go back on the tour. And when life is back to normal, of course, not like lockdown right now. But yeah, and I think we put so much pressure on ourselves thinking that life should look a particular way rather than just being open to the flow of it and just focusing on that niggling thing. Because it's like I'm in love with two countries. I'm actually torn between 3 countries because the love of my life lives in Mexico, and then the love of my career is in LA, and then my whole family is in Australia. It's like, I'm pulled in all directions all the time. But at the same time, I love it. I thrive off of traveling. So I can't complain. It's a gift at the same time.
Which it's interesting to me, Kirsty, that you ultimately have landed in Venice. And I wonder a little bit about sort of maybe whatever your experience was in this time when you guys were like gallivanting or what, because you've also, I think, called several places home and been flexible and open to different places being home, and then Venice. And it's funny to me because totally on a separate side note, but I moved to Los Angeles and my dream was to live in Venice. I thought Venice was just the most magic place ever. And I think lots of people with this certain kind of spirit feel that way. And so, but it's funny because I don't know that I would have put you maybe in that category always. So like, what made that be your place?
Well, I knew that I wanted to live in Los Angeles. I always have wanted to live here. Every time I'm here, I feel home. When hear people talk about creative things, I'm like, because all day, every day I talk about poker, which has been great. And I love poker. But then when I came here, I was like, oh, this is a part of me that I have not felt had a place with other people. And I really liked the area that Lynn lives, and I would have lived there. But I think that one thing that I have always sort of, I don't know, I mean, it's taken 15 years in my relationship to admit to my husband that I wanted to live in LA because I knew it wasn't, one of the cities that he really liked. And I think that in some ways I worried about putting my thing first. Like, I wasn't really sure he wanted to move to LA in the first place. But the thing I do know is that he likes the beach. He likes the water. If he could live anywhere, it would be San Diego near the water and the marina. And so I just thought it would be a happy medium that I get to have LA and he gets to, live by the beach and walk with the dog. And we also know a couple people here. But I will say that I love Venice. I love it. I could live here forever. And I'm kind of sad that we live in LA. I finally live in LA and I don't get to do anything.
I know the timing's been terrible.
But I'm so grateful to be quarantined next to the beach because I go to the beach every day. It's down the street and not super scary, but yeah. It's funny.
And I'm so glad that I got to see you right before the quarantine because I was
Yes.
thinking about that the other day. I was like, dude, I was a little panicky about COVID, a little prematurely anyways. I was a little worried about you coming from LA with all the poker and everything. And I'm so glad that trip happened because
I know I
sad.
feel grateful but also a little guilty because I was around poker. I don't know. It was just, I'm glad everything was fine. But a couple of things that I did want to talk to you guys about is you live in Texas. What's it like in Texas? Because LA and Texas, I feel if there are opposites in the United States, it's probably these two places. What's life like there?
I mean, I think actually it's interesting because Texas is so big that there's really a lot of extremes on all sides. I think most people would be kind of in fact, actually, I would say I was talking to my grandma the other night and she, I told her where I live is actually predominantly a Black community. And she was like, what? Texas? And I was like, it's Houston, Grandma. It's Houston. It's this is a very
eclectic.
mix
Yeah.
of people here. And in fact, we're very close to Louisiana. It's like probably a little bit more like Louisiana in some ways here. But of course, we have friends and people everywhere. And it's interesting because there's some like card rooms, right, that are opening already. For card rooms, which is crazy. Or I think it's crazy, but like
So
up
the
to you,
poker
I guess.
rooms,
Like,
are they full 9-handed? Do you know?
there are some that are open like that. And
I
it's
didn't
basically
know.
like, it's been a few weeks where it's like, I think it was maybe yesterday, or I'm not sure, but like the gyms now are open. But also there's a whole lot of people that are at home still and are being like super cautious. And actually it's funny because for the most part it's been when we go to the grocery store, everybody's been wearing a mask and people wearing gloves and all this, which I'm just like, yay, like we can all be in the world if everyone's wearing a mask. But then this last time when I went on Sunday, I was very excited to be free of my crutches and going to the grocery store, and then there was all these people without a mask on, and I was like, come on, like just be safe for everyone. I mean, nobody has all the answers, but at least if everybody would just be doing that, we could all be like feeling pretty safe and be out about in the world. I'm sure lots of people have lots of opinions. I know this is a very polarizing topic, which just blows my mind for some reason. How this has managed to become so polarizing to me is like crazy. But I'm surprised by how polarized it is here. Also, a lot of people like going out and doing whatever they want. A lot of people still being super cautious and worried. And I have a feeling it's probably like that everywhere.
I agree with you. It's like crazy how polarized it is. But I also, whether there's a need to open because the effects are going to be worse if we don't reopen for people's mental health and for people's businesses, like that's not really, I can definitely see both ways. But I just cannot for the life of me understand the argument to not wear masks. Like, why?
There's
Why
statistics,
would you?
There's numbers, there's data. There's just data. That's just like data that you can't deny.
Also, it's
right?
just
like
like it's not about
80% of people
you.
are wearing a mask, we're gonna be okay. And it's not about you at all, actually. It's 100% about other people. Like that's what.
And you would think that it's like the rational middle point. Like, okay, cool, we can have our freedom back, but let's just do this to compromise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's just be cautious. It's like you are literally saying, like a child, I'm not gonna do it because you're telling me to, even though it's like you might hurt somebody else. I don't understand.
And like, what if we're wrong? Like, what if it turns out masks are stupid? That's okay. That'll be fine.
Yeah, it's the reverse free roll. Like if they could just think like poker players. If they could just think like poker players. This is like a reverse free roll for you, bro.
Right.
And your grandma.
If we're wrong, it's going to be really bad.
Right.
But if you wear a mask and like we didn't need it, then like, we didn't need it. That was annoying for a little while. But like if we don't wear it and we did need it, it's really bad. It's really bad. Yeah, I think it's crazy. And then, but it's so funny because I was just actually saying this on the PokerNews podcast this morning. So, I actually don't watch TikTok very much because it has sound, and I'm almost always only on my phone when I'm nursing the baby, which is like a time where you're trying to make it quiet, right? So I have recently been more invested in the search function on Instagram, the like little magnifying glass where all kinds of random stuff comes up. I've never really been into that part of the Instagram. I mostly only wanted to see like the people that I care about, right? But on my search function, I found a picture of people open in Florida, a four-handed poker table, and everyone was wearing the mask, but then the caption underneath, which I love when people, it's like the pictures, whatever it is, but it's the sassy person who like commented under his funniest thing. And underneath it was like, well, if this is what we're doing, probably we shouldn't be like opening back up or whatever. Like if this is what's necessary, like stay home. And I was thinking, yeah, like it's also kind of crazy, right? If you have to like be in these glass things and then do the mask, and then like they have these like special chip cleaners and like all this stuff, I'm like, dude, if you have to gamble that bad, like there is a phone number you can call, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, also it's so funny because I hear people all the time say, great, because I love shorthanded. And usually people who say they love being shorthanded, they're not very good at poker. And I'm telling you, unless you're a pro, you don't want to play shorthanded. You don't want to
And
play
like,
four-handed.
who's good at playing? Even like the best people aren't good at playing four-handed. Four-handed is crazy. Even like when you do interviews with poker players who are amazing, and they're talking about like, yeah, my heads-up game is pretty solid. Like I'm pretty good at like a full ring, like 6 max, great. But like four-handed, that's just nobody's specialty. Nobody's specialty is
Everybody's
that.
specialty.
It's crazy.
Maybe just like a sit and go grinder.
Yeah.
And I'm not even trying to be an asshole because like I'm a gambler, like just in general in my life. Like I make lots of decisions that don't make sense, and I do think people should make decisions that are kind of wild and crazy. I think that's the best way to live your life. But and I understand also it's like we've got dealers and casinos and whatever, like there's whole microcosms of communities that need to exist in this whole space. But I'm just struggling with like when you're looking at the risk reward ratio,
Right.
like how that could ever, like how you could like balance out and be like, yeah, actually I think it makes sense to go do that. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. Like I don't think there's any like money or joy or like anything that could come from that that's like worth what it could potentially cost.
But that's what I think about every day when I'm like, well, should I see my friend from like 10 feet away? Is it worth it? And I'm kind of like, I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like, it kind of is. Like at this point, it kind of is for me. Like I've gone to a social distance picnic and there was lots of people in the park and we wore masks and everything, and it felt really good. But then as soon as I got home, if I have like an itch in my throat, I'm like, oh shit. Oh, it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. They shouldn't have done it.
Dry cough. Oh gosh. Like every time.
Yeah, I got
Every
it.
time
I got the
something happens,
I got
for
the
sure,
Rona
dry cough.
for sure. Every
Yeah.
time.
But I think it's interesting because I think it's, well, even how you were explaining about your experience, you know, realizing, okay, now's the time I need to write my book. Or Lynn, like, okay, I've like gotten into my homemaker mode. Or for me, there's been infinite reasons why this thing has been really huge and life-changing for me. One of them being I spent most of it on my bed. But I think that it's been eye-opening in one way for the first few months. And I think that we all needed like a little bit of time to look inside. But then I think it's also now where a lot of people, myself included and yourself obviously, are coming to the realization of how important the outside people also are. Mostly the people. I think the friends and the family people are just like, I cannot not be connected with my friends and family anymore. And so it's an interesting kind of balance. Like we went from this one extreme of like we're like social media, we're like traveling, we're blah, blah, blah. And then we like came inside and we were like, oh, we really needed to come inside. And then now it's like, but it's not really like your inner world isn't as rich or complete without those like connections. Right?
Yeah.
And so you're saying, and I was we're thinking about going to see some of our family this weekend, and we've been like the hard nose. That family's been seeing each other for weeks now, and we kind of were starting to feel like people were getting mad at us because we've been so strict about the quarantine, and we've just been debating, going back and forth, and maybe we were going to go last weekend, and we kind of came to the same feeling of like, you know, at this point, like life is not the same without like your friends and family. It's just not. And Zoom is great, but like little kids and stuff, like you just need to like see them. You need to see them play and like be around them. I want my baby to like see her grandma and stuff.
Yeah.
I am feeling a difference too with my feeling, like, because for exactly the reasons that you're explaining, in the beginning of all of this, Australia took a really long time to shut down, and I was going berserk because we were in lockdown and it was really like, you know, starting to skyrocket over here. And Australia, I would just see my parents and my friends just living life as normal, and my parents are still going to the gym, and I was just going crazy. And, you know, I had some hard words with my parents, like every day, calling them again, like, all right, guys, are you taking this seriously? Like, this is what's happening over here, blah, blah, blah. Like, look at Ireland as well, because that's where we're from. And they're in lockdown. Like, look at Europe. You know, yeah. But Australia just was in this like bubble. And I was so angry every time I would hear about anyone like going and doing something social. I was so mad. And then, anyway, they finally went into lockdown. You know, it was a bit slow. And thankfully, Australia somehow has just slid on by and gone without, like, just today, the number has hit 100 deaths in the entire country. Today, it's the 100th person died overnight, like in the entire nation. Western Australia, where 3 of my best friends live, for that whole side of the country, which I think there's about 1 million people. There's only 4 active cases right now. That's it. And so they seem to have, even though they were slow to react, it just didn't really happen to hit them that hard. But they're starting to open back up, and now they can be in groups of, I think, 10. And even though I'm still nervous because it's still there, and especially in Melbourne where my parents are, it's still there. But I do now feel more of that way up. Like now my mum is starting to catch up with her friends, and she's in that risky bracket, and at the beginning I was just so mad, like, don't you dare, what are you doing? It's not worth it. But now I can feel that softening of, no, it is important. Like she needs to have that contact. Like I get it. And, it's, yeah, we've learned a lot. I think we've all learned a lot in the last 2 months about ourselves, about what we need. And it's been an important reconnect though, for sure, right? To slow down and to weigh up what we need and to appreciate what we were taking for granted. I appreciate my groceries more than I've ever in my life. Like I always just took it for granted. I'm like, yep, gonna go get my groceries. But now I'm just like, I am so grateful that I can pay for my groceries. I can go and just get them and eat. And yeah, it's just been life-changing for all of us.
Yes. And it'll be something that we'll always be able to be like, remember that really
gosh.
crazy time. And when you think that it was really, so far, it's been just a few months, but I think there's been just so many gratitudes and changes and things. And actually, I think one of the interesting, I hope more long-lasting changes is this shift online for a lot of people. And not that everything has to be like that or that it needs to be like this, but I think we've been saying, because of our industry and because of the way that we work for ages, I've been saying, like, my husband, like, why do you have to go to an office to do like insurance? Like, you're on the computer and the phone, like why do you go? And I hope that a lot of businesses and industries are realizing that not only can they save money, but that productivity is not decreased by allowing people to work from home. In fact, like statistics show that it's actually increased by allowing people to work from home, even though like I'm sure the Instagram, like whatever jokers would say whatever they say. But I hope that a lot of industries are realizing this, this idea that you need to have a hard location is not as important. And I hope that will open up spaces. I think a lot of people are also, what's been amazing to me is stuff that we've been talking about for a long time, like food, being in control of your own food, being able to grow and plant, people thinking about having animals that they can eat, like being able to control your own food is something that I think people are really, really jumped on board with in this situation. And like I have like a little mini garden or whatever, and I've been growing like microgreens and stuff for a while, and then I just went to get some more microgreens like 3 weeks ago, like restock all my bulk boxes or something. Dude, everything's gone. Everything's gone. Yeah. Everything is bought up. But inside, and actually we were looking at my mom has like, she's built a chicken coop and she's buying chickens, and we're trying to find all these, dude, chickens are like bought out. Ain't nobody got no chickens to sell to you anymore. Like people are, building like so many things that I think that we've been talking about for a while, and that we've been feeling like this is important. And I don't know if like everyone else was feeling like that, but I know us three have been talking about it at least. And it seems like, okay, this has been universal. There has been some like consciousness, some buzz about this, and this particular pandemic, whatever. And I know lots of people like may or may not, whether or not you think this was planned or whether it was just like a convenient thing that ended up happening, I think some of the outcomes are not what people would have expected. I think people would have expected people to sort of crumble and fall apart and like look for help me, save me, whatever. But what's really happened is people, I think, are becoming more self-reliant, figuring out how they can take care of themselves more, figuring out how they can be more connected to their environment, and also like their families. People are working from home and they realize, I don't want to drive 2 hours a day because I want that 2 hours with my kids that I don't get paid for anyways. And I feel like there's going to be some really, really positive shifts from this thing because people are realizing that they want to control their own lives again.
And how amazing too, like if you have like if you've got big dreams for a big like corporate career, you have to live in a teeny tiny apartment, usually right in the heart of a city, and commute or whatever. And imagine still being able to have that career path, that salary, and live on a big block of land with a garden and work from home, and it's just opening up so much opportunity for us to spread our wings a little and go out a little further and be a little bit more self-reliant and have that garden and maybe grow some of our food. It's true that there's so many gifts that are coming out of it. And it's helpful to focus on those to sort of stay lifted out of the fear that so many of us are surrounded by as well, and just keep trying to focus on the gifts that are coming from it, and hopefully it'll have a positive change. Like all of the statistics that are coming through as well with climate change, and like how the planet is thriving during this time when we've slowed down.
Yeah.
That's undeniable as well, which has been something that climate change activists have never been able to prove. It's all predictions. And now, okay, you're not going to believe the predictions? Here, let's give you some proof. Get in your cages. And we've all been put in our cages where we belong for a little while because of the way we've been treating the planet. It's just kind of, it's a big awakening.
What you said about the difference in focusing on these parts instead of the fear is, I mean, the first couple weeks, I was seriously face down in a couch trying to just cope because I was so afraid and so worried and stressed that, my little sister had a baby shower. And I was just like, oh my God, like, what if I have COVID and I just gave it to everybody and someone dies? Or like, is China and Russia gonna take over and just like bomb us or something? And like just crazy, crazy thoughts. And I think that whenever I start spinning in that, it just feels so good to focus on those things. And the way that things have always been done, there's never really enough reason or impetus to try something new, try having a whole workforce work from home, or find a job that like you can work from home, or be more self-reliant, because comfort and convenience is so easy when we have it, that like we don't have to suffer any kind of pain that will have us choose differently. But when you go to that grocery store and you don't have your Oatly on the shelf, it's like, I need to learn how to make oat milk by myself or whatever. It's like, it's so wonderful to have things shaken up like this. And I know
we're about to have a big shakeup too in the meat industry, and this has been like brewing for weeks now, but because of COVID and for various reasons, there's a lot, I think, it's going to be very expensive and difficult to purchase meat coming soon. And I think that's going to be another really interesting sort of shift for people to really have to look at. And like, I eat meat, dude, I live in Texas, I eat like barbecue, like I love all the, but as the prices have gone up, and even for like here, of course, at the grocery stores already, it's like you're only allowed to have 4 pieces of meat when you check out. And I think that whether how difficult it is to get your Oatly is like for you, your thing. And I think for a lot of people, like consuming meat with every meal is pretty much like a standard practice or procedure. And when things are not available to be purchased at rates or prices that are reasonable, I think that's going to be, it's fixing to be something like really, really interesting to see what the lasting impacts of that are going to be.
And it's kind of wonderful because, I mean, stats show that we're eating the standard American diet, there's just way too much quantity of meat, like way too much. If we were beasts, like if we were hunters in the wild, it would be a rare, beautiful, special occasion that we had a wild beast to feast on, right? And then for the rest of the time, we'd be grazing on the plants. So, and the way that the food industry is now, meat is just as affordable as the head of lettuce, and so no one sees the difference. And so there's such a lack of appreciation or like gratitude for this special feast that we're having. It's just kind of normal. It's like, yep, we're having the chicken again, we're having the steak again. And so yes, it should be more expensive because it's a special thing, and we shouldn't be consuming as nearly as much as we are.
The same with fish. We're like overfishing, and sushi used to be a thing that's like a delicacy, even in places like in Japan or whatever. It's not a thing that people eat all day every day, or should be available at a gas station.
Wow.
I hope what you're saying, the change takes place and it becomes a positive change. I do want to give a shout out real quick to George. George he says, I'm 69 with existing issues and zero chance of favorable outcome. And I think that like there's been so much in the media that shows us of young people or whatever going on spring break and like basically like, well, it's not going to affect me or whatever. Like they are, cognitive dissonance so that they can do the things that they want to do, which is go on spring break that they've planned and enjoyed. But I think that because it's been highlighted so much, it's not representative of, I don't think, of most young people. Like we get that we love our grandparents, we love our aunts and uncles, or whether we have aunts or uncles or not, like it matters what we do, and we understand that. So
it matters more because of that. Because what I was going to say, it's so funny because for my own self, I'm always just like sometimes I still think I have the, brain capacity of a 16-year-old where I'm just like, it doesn't matter, I can do it. Like I do crazy things and like, who cares? It's like, because then it's only about me. But when I have to think that what I'm doing and the decisions that I'm making are affecting the people that I love the most, that I could be murdering the people that I love the most, well, then I'm not going to make the same decisions. Like making terrible decisions for your own self is one thing, but when the decisions you're making are affecting all the people that you love the most, I think it makes you it should make you infinitely more cautious.
Yes.
And I have so much, I was in the hospital like in the very beginning of all of this a couple of times, like having a surgery, and I was terrified, thinking I'm like going literally, like I'm sitting in the ER in the middle of the night with like people that are coughing next to me, and I'm just like, it's happening for sure. And I was terrified, like going into surgery, it puts you into a position where your body goes into, shock. And but I think that the thinking about a lot of the things that have come out about some of the longer lasting impacts, I think that's another thing that people are maybe not thinking about or considering. I think a lot of people think like, and even I just spoke to Elke like 2 weeks ago, and he had it, and so did his girlfriend, and they were fine. Like she was sick for 3 or 4 days and they came out of it, and he came out of it. A lot of people are coming out of it and then coming back, and there's like, scar tissue damage in their lungs, and there's impacts that I think haven't been super clear in the first few weeks. And since having this injury, like we talked about in the very beginning of the podcast, I'm just so much more acutely aware of how delicate the balance is of like every little piece of thing in your body, right? Like right now I can't really bend my knee. You wouldn't think, why can't you bend your knee? Well, like when your ankle is like all smashed up and your leg is smashed up, it's like your knee doesn't work because all of the things are connected. My toes don't work like the same way. It's like everything is so connected. Even I'm not walking the same way on like my right leg, which hurts my back, and everything is so like intimately connected. And so like when I imagine that you might have some scar tissue in your lungs that never goes away, that's forever. This isn't just like, I'm 20, who cares? Da, da, da. It's like thinking about forever, and then thinking about people who already have comorbidities or people who already have issues that make it more difficult for them to recover. Anybody who's not worried about that and not thinking about that, I just think it's just really selfish.
Yeah.
Mm.
And if we're wrong, we're wrong. Who cares? Like, what's the worst thing? Like, if we're wrong and we just like we took 6 or 7 months like too slow, or we like didn't open up fast enough or whatever, then like I know life is the only thing that like you cannot ever get life back, right?
Yeah, or a body
life.
part. I mean, actually, maybe with stem cells in the future, but you know what I mean. But also, what you said a couple of times today, which I think is something that I ask myself all the time when I'm like disagreeing with somebody, or I'm getting in some Twitter battle or something about an opinion that I have. I always ask myself, like, okay, but just stop for a second. What if I'm wrong? If I'm wrong, did I at least proceed and debate in a way that I'm still proud of myself and I'm still like okay with who I am if I'm wrong? Like, it's okay if I'm wrong. But if I'm wrong and an asshole and like just being the worst person because I'm trying to prove a point and I'm wrong, like
I have been so guilty of this so many times. And actually, like going back to PrettyBroad, I'm sure that if I would re-listen to things, I would just be like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe how like red I thought I was about so many things. But it's so funny because I just watched this. I watch this scientist every night who just goes through like, these are the numbers, this is what's going on. And he was discussing the difference between like opinions and belief systems. And he's like, an opinion is something that should be like very easily shifted if other data proves otherwise, right? And I think for me, I can totally understand. Like I don't come to very many opinions without like trying to do like a certain amount of research, right? Or feeling like I have an understanding. But if someone comes in with new information or new data that's like better or should change that opinion, then my opinion should change. Like if I'm a smart, normal person, that should be something that I'm open to or flexible with. But then he was explaining, and this is something that I think I can connect to more, and how belief systems now are being connected to all kinds of things that maybe they really shouldn't be. But he said a belief system is more something where if someone comes in and challenges it, then it's like trying to change your worldview. And that's, you know, so frustrating or so upsetting that like a lot of people will double down even on,
Or saying something about who you are as like a
that's
person.
the worst. Like ad hominem attacks are like just like such a sad way to debate. But when someone like confronts something that you consider to be part of your belief system, then that becomes A, an attack on you, and then B, that you won't even hear the other information. Actually, sometimes information from on the other side makes you even more sure about, you know, your belief system, which is like kind of crazy. And he was talking about all these examples, and it really did make me think about my own self. And I definitely think I've been guilty of that, and I'm sure I still am guilty of that a lot. And I think that's been one of the hardest things about this particular thing is being so unsure of what's the right answer and, you know, what to do in so many situations, that it's made me think about so many other things that I feel so sure of. And like, should I? Because it's so clear in this spot, you can see like, well, this information says this and this information says this, blah, blah, blah. And there's like so much different information, which is like validated and makes sense and da, 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 that it's like, oh, I can't like make a decision about anything because everybody has so many facts that contradict themselves. And then I'm like, that's probably like a lot of the things, like just like everything is kind of like that. And
that's so good. I know a lot of people were watching our poker players too, and if I could make it into a poker analogy, it's like the difference between if you have an opinion about how a hand should be played, and then you ask someone who's better than you and they have a different opinion, you're like, oh, well, this person clearly has more experience and their reasoning is really good. You know, they talked about the odds, and you're like, oh, I changed my opinion. But when you have a belief system about like you yourself as a poker player, that is, it determines your self-worth. Then when you share what you did about a hand and your belief, and someone says like, no, that's not good, then you're like, fuck you. Oops, I shouldn't say F, but like, I mean, and I used to do this to the internet. I was like, whatever, you don't even know. You weren't even there. Besides, you're not a girl and you don't know what it's like and how people play differently against me. So whatever. Just making that part relatable in case you're a poker player.
And get so emotional about it. That's part of it too.
And I think, and this is something I've also learned too, because I think all of us are guilty, right? And I was certainly guilty of this and still am. But now, like, I purposely want to find information that'll contradict what I like. I want to find stuff that will make me wrong, like question everything that I think, because otherwise, if we believe something so deeply, we're just going to seek everything that proves it right. And it's so easy to find evidence of what, if you're looking for nothing more than just evidence to prove what you think is right, you're going to find it, especially when it comes to things like nutrition, right? Because you can prove everything because the human body is so different, and like studies can be manipulated in whatever way that the person that's doing the study wants it to prove, you know? And so it's kind of the same like in the real world. So it's like we should be seeking whatever it is that we feel is right, then look for what will prove it wrong to like find a balanced opinion. You know, like watch CNN and Fox News, like watch both, like just watch both sides so that you can form your own opinion somewhere in the middle.
Or don't watch either of them.
Or don't watch either.
Yeah. Seriously. And it's crazy. It's crazy because like forming your own opinion rather than having like an ideological, just like I'm this with you guys and whatever you guys say is like, that is critical thinking. And but also what you're saying, the same is true for the beliefs we have about ourselves, which we sometimes think are complete truth. And I mean, this is like what I've been facing all the time as like a writer. I keep like, because I haven't been an author before, I'm like, okay, but I'm not really one. And my brain, because I want to go back to that because it's scary, because if I say I'm a writer, it's scary. If I say I want to be in, have a best-selling book. And I remember, Lynn, you said this too about, being able to own I am an actor. It's like we could also challenge the things that we know we don't have any proof of, that I'm never going to be a writer or whatever. It's like it's like collecting evidence for the belief system that will have us be most successful. Because I know that if this is something that I want to do, the belief that I am not a writer yet, or I'm not a writer now, or I might not be, it's not helpful. So what belief system will be helpful? And we can collect evidence about that.
Yeah, and like every writer or anyone that you look up to or want to become, like whoever it is that you're like, following the path of, they had to start somewhere too. And like they were a writer the entire journey also, even before they had anything published. It's that same thing. And for any art or career path or, right? We all start somewhere. We can't just decide like, oh, because I want to do that now, I need to immediately be at Olympic level. Like that's impossible.
It's funny though, because it makes me think of being a mother, which is like not a thing or a career exactly, right? But I read like so many books when I was pregnant, and like really in the last 4 or 5 months I read so many books. And what's shocking to me is like I read one book that's like, this is totally uncorrelated, or like this is not real, and then you read the next one and it's like, these two things are 100% correlated. If you don't do these two things together, then like your baby will never sleep, or like whatever it is. And I read so many books, and I was so like, honestly, I started keeping notes and like journals and stuff because I was just so overwhelmed. There's so much information. And like you're saying about the studies, right? There's just so many studies of like, well, that study was bullshit because of this. And like this study is like better because it's double blind. And without the like, there was only 65 people. And but like you just start reading these different doctors like fighting against each other. And like, I think actually like I read so much information that at a certain point I was just like, actually, I'm just gonna do whatever I want. And it's worked like just about as good as when I was trying to do
Yeah,
like
she's
all the
still
other,
alive,
You're
and
interesting.
she's super strong.
It's like I just realized like there's so many opinions and there's so much information, and we just like live in a world where there's just so much information about everything. And then but also you tell yourself the story. Like I tell myself the story, like, you don't know about being a mother. Like what do you know about like, I think most people would be like, it's just like natural, but like it's not. You have tons of questions like, is this okay? Is this like, should she be doing this by now? Is this whatever? But really, after you read CNN, Fox News, Dr. whoever 50 times, then at the end you're just like, honestly, I'm just gonna like see what she does, and we'll just like figure out from there like whatever feels good and natural. And I think that's a little bit part of the opinion train, is like getting so set on feeling like there's these like facts that you can hold on to, and that somehow you can like control your world, or you can like understand the world better because you're like, but this is the fact that I know, and if I switch it, then like everything will be shaken up. But then really it's like a little bit easier sometimes. I feel like I'm just a little bit more flexible, and like if the baby is a good example, then like she doesn't die and it's okay, and she seems happy and fine. And whether or not I've like followed this person's idea or this person's idea, reading both more than anything just made me realize like I probably better just like follow my own guts.
Well, I think that there has been a few really clear themes of today's show, which is basically, one, we are smarter than we think we are, and we have an inner guidance system. And the other is that it's really an opportunity when things get shaken up to take a look. Whether it's like our opinions, our beliefs, or freaking quarantine, it's like there's such huge opportunities to like figure out who we are and start listening a little bit more. And I didn't really have a plan for the show. I planned on, like trying to figure it out as we went. But my favorite thing about talking to you guys is having these really eye-opening and intelligent conversations from people who I think though we are very similar and have such a deep friendship, we come from different places in the world and have different viewpoints about lots of different topics, and I always learn something. But the respect with which you guys see the world and can communicate, I'm so appreciative of, and I love you guys so much, and I'm so thankful you guys came on. And before we head off, I just wanted to see if there's anything else that you guys really quickly want to say, or if there's something upcoming that you guys have that people can see or take part of, or a message, anything that you guys want to say before we kind of wrap it up, because I know we've been on for a while, and I'm sure Vera's hungry by now and needs a little ta-ta time.
I'm telling you, they just leak all the time. I can't get any of it right now because it's full of the wine. But I wanted to say this to you guys because it made me, looking at all those pictures of us back in the Bahamas, and I've thought of this, Christy, from the time after Lynn left and when we were traveling together. And I think another thing that we've touched on several times during this podcast is just like how much this time has shown us a lot of gratitude for just being in the space we're in and being connected with the things and the people and whatever that we're with. And I look back sometimes on those times, the early days of all of us traveling together, and I think, gosh, I just really didn't appreciate it enough. It just felt like that was like what we were doing, and maybe that's what we would do forever, or maybe I was just too young to really appreciate it. But I've thought back on it now and thought, oh my gosh, if I was traveling the world right now with those two women, like I would die. I would just treat it so much differently now, which is of course how it works, right? Like it would just it wouldn't make sense if I had appreciated it as much then as I did now. But I'm really grateful for this opportunity to sit down and just like talk with you two again. And I hope that when more doors open for us in the future, that we will have the sort of wisdom to come at those situations with the gratitude that we now realize how fortunate it is to just be around each other and like hang out with each other. Because I feel really grateful for you guys, and I hope that we get to do some trips and things together again in the future.
Yeah, me too.
I agree. And I think gratitude is the most helpful thing for all of us, everyone watching and listening. Like, it's just to keep, like, we're going through a roller coaster of emotions right now with everything that's happening. And gratitude is the one thing, if we just focus, whether it is just being able to take a deep breath or taking a step with your left and right foot, and whatever it is, keep it just as simple as possible. Just there's always an unimaginable amount of things to be grateful for, no matter how stressed out we are. And when we find those moments of anxiety or pressure or fear, just trying to pull ourselves out by focusing on what we're grateful for, because we're very lucky. If you can sit in front of your computer right now watching a live stream on YouTube, you are one of the very top % of the people on the planet that have lots and lots of things to be grateful for. So yeah, and I'm just so grateful that we can do this and we can connect and catch up. And almost a decade later, it's just amazing.
So crazy. So crazy.
It's really so crazy.
And just want to give a shout out one last time. Sunny, Lynn, you're super hot. Also, Eric Martinez, thanks for the live chat. Ken, thank you so much for being here with us. And Mitch, also appreciate your support. Ken, Darren, Dolphin PM. All right, guys. Hot Tub Snow Monkey. Great name. Great name. Thank you guys so much for swinging by and hanging out with us. And yeah, that's the third theme. Gratitude. I'm so grateful for you guys. And I can't wait to squeeze your faces. I don't know when that's going to be. But I might just go out there and get the Rona, get it over with, so I can't.
Well, we don't even know if that'll keep you.
Okay, maybe I won't. I know. It's just
never ending questions.
Yeah. Which is also another theme.
Yeah.
Question everything.
Questions. And question everything, but ask the right questions. Like,
right.
And
keep asking.
Trust no one.
Be curious.
All right. Well, hopefully we can get together again sometime, especially if we're in quarantine. We'd love to do this again. All right, guys. That's it. Love you guys so mucho.
Love you.